Hi, I'm Debbie and this is Book and Bujo, and today is the first TBR-opoly of the year. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. Today we're going through my TBR-opoly for January. So new year, new start, everything from last year goes away and we start fresh. No rewards, no punishments, none of that. So let's go to some basic rules and take a look at the board. All right, so we got a new year of TBR-opoly. So that means we'll be starting at the go space, and anything that happened in 2023 is now gone. So all the rewards are back in the pile. So we're actually gonna kind of shuffle all of the cards here. And I'll shuffle all of these so I don't get them in the same order I got last time. I also have my TBR jar here. I have not cleaned that one out. I have cleaned all of these ones up and removed like any series I finished or books I've already read. I did take those out, so those shouldn't be in here. My even cards. At some point I will actually make all of my cards the same size, shape, color, and all of that, but for right now this is still working. Alright, so for did I do series? I haven't done the series yet, so I need to clean those up. So I did add some new ones, so some of the ones that I finished, I added some more, and that's what the black cards versus the white cards are. The white cards are kind of from 2022 and 2023, and the black cards are 2023 and 2024. Alright, now for the 24 and 2024, so I pretty much just whited out the 3 that was on those, because this was the 23 and 2023, so these are the ones I still have left to read, which there's quite a few. So there was 12, so I read about almost half of them from 2023. So these are the rest of the ones that this makes up 24 total. So let's see if I can get these shuffled a little bit here. Make it a little more even. I feel like maybe it would be easier just to do like a white and then a blue and then a white and then a blue. Let's try that. At least to start with, and then I can kind of shuffle from there, but this way more likely to get a good even mix this way. And I haven't actually used my TBR jar too recently. I think I had a couple out of there in October, but not really since then, so I'm sure there's not too many in there that I have read. Or, yeah, that I have already read. Okay, so we'll start with that. You want to see it's still pretty full. There's a little bit of room in there. Give it a little shake. I think the blue cards that are in here were actually from, the black ones were from a Christmas in 2022, and the blue ones I think were just random ones I added throughout the year. All right, just like Monopoly, you go around the board. Wherever you stop on, if I stop on a blank space, it's either an odd or an even, depending on what roll of the die was. If I land on one of these other spaces, then I get that particular prompt. So I draw a series card, or I do a D20 roll, non-reading prompt here. Booktuber recommendation, I have another non-reading prompt, A to Z challenge, read a nonfiction, a buzzwordathon book, because that is a year-long readathon, so it's a different prompt for each month. 24 and 24, so I would draw one of those. TBR jar, which is this one here. A book club book, read a classic, an Amazon borrow, and that's basically a free Prime reading book. I just happen to call them Amazon borrows. And then I have the Our Fantasy Bingo, and then on Go I will, if I land on here, it used to be a free pick or like a mood read, but now I'm thinking I may do a spinner wheel, we'll see how that goes. I don't land on that space too often, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so I do have a D20 die, so when I land on this space, I roll this one. I have a D10, so when I land on my Amazon borrows, then you can borrow 10 books at a time, so it would choose one of those. And I also use this one to decide how many rolls I will be doing each month, so how many books I'll be reading. And then I have my regular die. All right, so we have no rewards that get to carry over. They only last throughout the year, and then if I don't use them by the end of the year, they go back in the pile. So let's find out how many rolls I will be doing for January. So let's get started. We'll start with our D10 and figure out how many books I will be reading for January. 2. All right, so here we go. If I get less than 4 books, then I have to roll again. And I either take the higher number or I can add the 2 together. So if I got 2 again, then I can add the 2 together and that would be 4. Or if I got 4, I could either choose 4 or I could add them and then read 6 books. And again, if I roll doubles, so just like Monopoly, if I roll doubles, then I have to add a roll to the game. So I got a 2, so I will be rolling again. And another 2. Well, I guess I will have 4 rolls for January. All right, let's get right on into the game. And of course, start out with doubles. I'm okay with that actually, because 4 rolls, that's not very many books. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. A booktuber wreck. Of course, roll number 1 is a double, but that's okay. 4 rolls is pretty small, so I'm not too sad about getting a double. I'm actually kind of happy about it. So I get a 5th book in there. But roll number 1 was a booktuber wreck, and for that I'm going to be reading Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie, and this is the 6th book in the First Law world. And this is part of the Catch Up Book Club that is hosted by Becca and the Books. So of course there's a lot of people talking about it and recommending it to others. All right, roll number 2. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that would be an even card. And that is a book club book. Roll number 2 was an even card, and that was a book club book. And I actually just put one on, but let's go ahead and put on another because I have multiple book clubs that I participate in. And this one will be the Bujo Buddies Book Club, which was formerly known as the J&R Book Club with Jashi Curran. And we are reading Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Tors. Roll number 3. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. TBR jar. All right. Got lots of stuff in here. Dig deep. See what's down at the bottom. All right, guess it's this one here. Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus. Roll number 3 was a TBR jar pick, and for that I pulled out Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus, and I was looking at the book that I actually have, and I actually have the 2nd book in the series. That's not very helpful, so I did look on my library through Hoopla, and this series is by Lydia Schur, and they do have the 1st book. So I will be reading Beginnings, the 1st book in the Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus series. Roll number 4. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Amazon borrow. So again, that is one of my Prime reading books that you can borrow. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can borrow up to 10 books at a time. All right, so I get my D10 out, and let's see what number that is. Number 5. Roll number 4 was an Amazon borrow, and for that I pulled out my 10-sided die and I rolled a 5, and for that it is the Emaneska series by Ben Galley. Now I do have the entire series on there, so it's over 1,000 pages. I will actually only be reading the 1st book in the series for that one. I mean, if I have time, I'll continue on to the 2nd book, but for my TBR purposes, I will be reading the 1st book, which is The Written. Roll number 5. This should be the last and final roll. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A series. This is great. I've landed on a whole lot of random different things. Rick Riordan. So I will be reading one of Rick Riordan's books from the Percy Jackson universe. And then for my 5th and final roll, I landed on a series. And for that, I pulled Rick Riordan. And that is part of the Percy Jackson universe. And I am up to the 2nd book in the Trials of Apollo series. And that one is The Dark Prophecy. So that was a quick and easy TBR with only 5 books on it, so I only have to read those 5 in order to complete my TBR. Get a reward. If I don't complete them, then I get a punishment. So my punishment is typically that I need to finish reading whatever I did not finish on my TBR. I need to read those first at the beginning of the month before I can get into the next month's books from my TBR. But this is not all that I'm going to be reading because, of course, I tend to read at least 10 to 12 books a month. But I am hoping to keep that a little lower. I do love my audiobooks for all those times when I'm doing some food prep or cleaning or whatever else. I'm in the car. But I do want to spend a little more time physically reading books. So I'm hoping to keep that down more closer to the 6 to 10 mark instead of the 12 to like 10 to 15 mark. We'll see how it goes. So what else do I have to read? Well, let's go ahead and start with book clubs. So I already mentioned 2 of them, and that is the Ketchup Book Club, and that is Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie, the 6th book in the First Law world. The next one is the Bujo Buddies Book Club, and that is formerly known as the JNR Book Club with Joshi Curran, and we are reading Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres. Next up, we have the Backlist Book Club with Covers with Cassidy, and for the December-January book, we are reading The Girl and the Stars by Mark Lawrence, and I have really struggled finding that book. I was hoping not to have to purchase it. I don't like buying books before I read them. I prefer to borrow them from the library, and then if I know I love them, then I buy them to put them on my bookshelves. But I did find the Kindle book for it, and I did get a gift card, so I may use that to purchase this one. Since my library doesn't have it, Hoopla doesn't have it, my Libby through my library doesn't have it, so I've been struggling to try and find a copy I could borrow. So we may go the Kindle route on that one. And that is the first book in the Book of the Ice series. And then I also participate in the Howling Pack Book Club with the Wild Sasha, but she has not posted what her January book is going to be yet. So I have just a blank hold for that one, and we'll see what that book's going to be. Next up are my read-alongs. So I completed the Shadowhunter read-along and by Cassandra Clare, and I also completed the Malazan Book of the Fallen read-along by Stephen Erickson. So I'm very excited that those are completed. Both great series. Now the Shadowhunter series will continue because she is writing a few more books that go in that series, but they are not released yet. So once those are released, I will pick those back up. But I am all caught up to what has been released except for the graphic novels. I have not read those. Next up is the Wheel of Time read-along with Sandra from Got a Thing for Things, and we are up to A Crown of Swords by Robert Jordan, which is the 7th book, I believe, in the Wheel of Time series, and I actually read that in December, so I kind of have a little freebie pass for January before we read the next book in February. Next up is the Cosmere read-along with Elliot Brooks, and we are reading through Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, and we are up to Mistborn Era 2, so let me grab my list because there's quite a few of them that are on the list to be read for January. Some of them are very short, so we'll see what happens. So we have The Alloy of Law, we have The 11th Metal, Shadows of Self, The Bands of Mourning, Secret History, The Lost Metal, and Arcanum Unbounded. So I do own a couple of those. I have the Arcanum Unbounded, I have the Alloy of Law, and I think I have the 11th Metal, but I'm pretty sure that my library has all the rest of them. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I will get all of those completed with some of the other books that are on my TBR, but I'm hoping to at least get to a couple of them. I think the read along for the Cosmere kind of ends in January, so I'd be able to push some of those to February if I need to. A couple other books that I forgot for the Cosmere read along, and that is Sixth of the Dusk and Allomancer Jack and the Pits of Eltania. And then the last read along is Around the Disc in 800, and that is with Literary Diversions. And we are up to The Truth and Thief of Time, which are part of the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. And I believe these are books 25 and 26. And there are either 42 or 43 main books, and then there's some of his little short stories that are sprinkled throughout, but I don't think there's any of those for this month. Okay, now we have the year-long read-alongs. So the first one is Buzzwordathon with Kayla from Books and Lala. And for January, we have to read a book with the word there in it. So it could be T-H-E-R-E, T-H-Y'-R-E, or it could be T-H-I-E-R, there. So I scoured through my Kindle books to see what I had, and I had one book with T-H-E-R-E in it, and that was There's No Coming Back from This, and that is by Anne Garvin. And I believe that is a romantic comedy. So the next one is, I haven't seen anything. I don't know if she's going to continue it in 2024, but I'm going to at least start it and use the prompts from 2023 just because it was so much fun. And that was Adventures in Aldea with G at Book Roast. And I have, again, two characters, Ariel and Karasu. And Ariel will be starting out this time. She's going to start with a different path than she did last time, so they're going to kind of swap sides. And Ariel is going to start a series, and that is The Written by Ben Galley, which is the first book in the Emaneska series. And then Karasu needs to finish a series. Now, G did say we could continue a series along with that, so we're taking steps towards finishing a series. And for that, he is going to read Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie. Now, this is a little bit cheating because it is a standalone, but it is part of a set of standalones that's in the First Law world. If I don't want to cheat like that, I could switch it to The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan, which is the second book in the Trials of Apollo series. So either one of those will work for this. And next we have just a month-long readathon. That's just for January, and that is New Beginnings, and that is with Zach at Rye Reads, formerly known as Books and Bops. And I will leave all of their channels linked below if you want to check out the readathons and any of the read-alongs and book clubs as well. The prompts for the New Beginnings readathon are a genre you don't read often, and for that I do want to get back into reading classics because I kind of took a little hiatus this past year and didn't read as many as I would like to have read. So I'm going to pick The Iliad by Homer. Maybe not the best book to start with the new year, depending on, I think my Kindle copy is 734 pages. A couple of the other copies I looked at, they were like 1,004, and those don't even include the Odyssey. So these are just the Iliad. But I think I found an audiobook from my library that I could also borrow so I could read that at the same time. And I think some of the classics, I think it helps a lot to have the audiobook and the physical book or an ebook that you can read at the same time, especially when it's not in as modern language as you're used to reading in. So I think that'll help a lot. So that is my hope, that my goal is to read the Iliad this year, and might as well just stick it in there for January. Prompt number 2, which, I mean, prompt number 1 also works for this one, but no doubling up on prompts, one book per prompt. And that is counts towards your 2024 reading goal. And for that, I'm going to read You Are the Placebo by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and one of my goals is to read a nonfiction every month, so this will be my nonfiction for January. All right, prompt number 3 is a book you wanted to read in 2023. And for that, I'm actually going to be picking The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson, because I actually wanted to read Mistborn Era 2 in 2023, but for the Cosmere read-along, we were doing a reread of Mistborn Era 1, so I did that instead. So I will be doing The Alloy of Law in January. Prompt number 4, a book that has been on your TBR for a while. And for this, I picked The Dark Prophecy, which is the second book in the Trials of Apollo series by Rick Riordan. Now, I have been wanting to read the Trials of Apollo for at least 2 years. I think I've had them on my list and just never quite got to it and keep putting them off to read other books. So it's happening. Prompt number 5 is Buddy read a book. And for this, I'm going to be reading Inkblood Sister Scribe with everyone else that is part of the Bujo Buddies book club. Prompt number 6, a book that is new on your TBR. And for that, I'm putting There's No Coming Back from This by Anne Garvin, because that is brand new to my TBR and I just put it on there this year. I'm also trying to reuse as many books as possible from other readathons, read-alongs, book clubs, and my TBR. TBR Appley prompts. All right, next prompt, a new to you author, and that will be Lydia Schurer, and I'll be reading Beginnings, which is the first book in the Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus series. Prompt number 8, a book recommended by the other team. So there's 2 teams for this read along. One of them is basically like Zach's members, like if you participate in Patreon or one of those platforms, then you are on that team. So it's his ghostly buddies. I can't remember the exact name of them. And the other team is everybody else. And then he averages the prompt scores by how many people are in there and takes the average, so that way it's even on both sides. So I have not seen any of their TBRs yet, so that one is open and up in the air until I figure out what some of those books are from his team members. Prompt number 9 is a book published in January, which doesn't necessarily mean January 2024. It's just was published in January in some random year. This one took a little while, and I found 2. One of them was The Iliad, and the other one, which I already had on here, which I could have moved it around and figured out a different book for a genre I didn't read often, but I did find one other one, and this is also another big TBR vet that I've wanted to read for a long time. I did watch the TV series when it came out, and I loved it, and that is A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. And then the last prompt is to reread a book, which is kind of a bummer because I did a lot of rereads in Q4 of 2023, and I don't really have any planned for the beginning of 2024, but I actually kind of do. So I'm getting ready to read Of War and Ruin soon by Ryan Cahill, which is part of the Bound and the Broken series. It's the 3rd main book. And I kind of want to reread the whole series as I go. So I may put in The Fall by Ryan Cahill, of course, and that is kind of like the first prequel novella to the whole series. So I may reread that one just to keep that fresh in my mind before I go into Of War and Ruin. And that is my TBR for January. It is a little ambitious on one hand. If I read everything, if I just focus on reading what's on my TBR itself, it's not too bad, very doable. So quick little recap, I have Sharp Ends by Joe Abercrombie for a booktuber recommendation. I have Inkblood Sister Scribe for a book club book, Beginnings by Lydia Schurer for a TBR jar. I have The Written by Ben Galley for Amazon Borrow, and I have The Dark Prophecy by Rick Riordan for reading a series. So I should be able to get through those fairly quickly, and after that then I can move into all of my book club, read along, and readathon books for the year. So are you participating in any of these readathons? I would love to find out. Let me know down below in the comments. And if you made it this far, let's leave some kind of New Year's emoji in the comments. So maybe champagne glasses or a champagne bottle, maybe like a little firework or something that you associate with New Year's Day. Have you read any of these books? I would love to find out your thoughts on them. And what book do you think I should start with for January 1st? Leave that down below as well. And please like, comment, and subscribe if y'all wanna, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos from me. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!